Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Tuesday. It's May 9th. This will be our chart listing for the day, and most of the day was like watching paint dry. Somebody else dropped me an email, said we finally, late morning, we finally picked up some movement here. So there were a couple of decent trades here, but by the time you really got this last move, it was too late in the day. If you wanted to, I would have been all right with taking this trade. Um, there's a double top here. This is really a double test of this high, and this is just another turn down off of this trend line right here. So if you were still trading, which you might have been since it was such a slow day, I'd be okay with that trade, but it is after 2 o'clock, so I did want to make mention of that. Um, I'm sure there's probably somebody that got trapped here. I didn't get any emails on it, but I just know how people think. Um, let's see a second entry right around the EMA, but notice we're coming off. At first, it looked like this was the channel, but when we got this overshoot and we started lower again, you had to assume it's probably two tiered. And so when you get back to here, coming off that, and that fits perfect. If you move that a measured distance, it fits perfect. Um, And so when we didn't get back to the eye here and there wasn't a break of this little short-term trend line right here, you had to assume you'd probably get trapped here. Even though if you'd have went short, it would have worked. I don't recommend that trade because a lot of times it won't go but a tick or two before it bounces. And it did come back here and give you another chance to enter. So both of these, it's just two sideways. It's just congestion. Just stay out of those. You might have considered that you could treat this one right here. Let me move this out of the way. You could treat this as a breakout pullback short, but notice that the bar is too bullish, and this is just the inside bar, and it didn't break higher, didn't break lower. So I think it's too risky. I think you're better off to wait and see if you get another entry, and then it's just sideways again. So again, even though it's dropping lower, there's just no decent entries there, and you may get burned more times than you actually make money. So you can't go short right into those lows right there. This is just a carryover. You might have been thinking long, but by the time you never really got a long setup. So you couldn't go long. You didn't want to go short. It's just not a very good setup. So hopefully you didn't get fooled on either of those. You'd been better off trying to pick a top. And I do want to make notice of this. Notice where this top happened here. It's right at the 2400 area. I hadn't talked about this in a while because we hadn't been close to a century type price level in a while. I call them century levels because they're based on the hundreds. And so, there's 2100, 2200, 2300, 2400. And once we reached 2400 today, we really turned down almost instantly. And that didn't surprise me. It also wouldn't have surprised me if we got a measured move here based on this move and then it turned down. So you had to be prepared for either to happen. But once we started going lower here, especially when it turned down right here, I like this to the short side. So even if it was going to be a range day, you still got plenty of room to head lower, and this trend line's in effect here. So, but anyway, that's just some things to understand about today overall. Um, Really, you could treat this as a range day because the basic trading of the day was in a range, even though there was a uptrend for a little while, then a downtrend. You really didn't get this big sell-off till late in the afternoon. I think everybody realized then the channel was in play and it wasn't a range day. So, but anyway, let's talk about the trades real quick, wrap it up, and I'm a little late getting this done. I'm ready to get out of here. So, um, first trade I saw, this one's green because the trend is up, but really we're going sideways here, and you've got a short-term trend, and you got a failed second entry long and a double top, and you've got a little bit of room before the EMA, and we did have an overshoot. If you look at the bigger channel possibilities, the odds were we were coming back to this side. So I wouldn't be afraid to go short right here. Notice the high pullback first entry, pullback second entry. It fails, gives you a nice bearish bar. You got the overshoot. You've had a break of this one and two attempts to go higher. So there's a good chance that we're going to come down and test the lower trend line. And I don't know, suddenly my voice cracked and my voice feels a little scratchy here. So if my voice sounds odd to y'all, it does to me too. So I don't know what's going on. It just hit me just all of a sudden here. Hope I'm not coming down with something. But anyway, you got your move back to the trend line. That's just the first entry, but I'm treating that as a failed break lower, a pullback, a confirmation of that trend line, a big bullish bar. You might let it break higher and drop a limit order just because it's a fairly big bar. That bar is actually, see if we can figure out how many. Yeah, sometimes this thing doesn't want to work. That is actually it says 5, but that looks like more than 5 ticks. Range value 5. It just doesn't look right, but I'm assuming it is. Maybe that's right. Maybe I'm out to a different. That was 3, so that's probably about right. So that's a 5 tick bar. So you could get in that following the 2-point rule. So scratch that idea. First entry short, and even though this didn't go lower, this is basically like a failed second entry short, and it is a second entry long. After prices got back inside, I shouldn't say back inside, but back above that support level. So I like going long there. And then this is where, and that moved to a new high. This is where it just started going sideways. Even though we got a new high there, we did get an overshoot. So sometimes, you reverse after that. So it didn't surprise me that we couldn't get back up here and that we got a break. But I thought we'd probably at least try that 2400 area again, but it just didn't happen. And we've already kind of talked about this, just too much sideways. Same thing right here, too much overlap and sideways. And then it does finally break lower, and you get your first opportunity to go short really on a decent trade right here. And really, it was almost tempting to go long right here. And you really could have gone long because there's a little bit of a trap right here. So even though I didn't mark that one, I like that trade. It's real close to being green, but I'm going to mark it blue because this is a failed break lower on a market that's going sideways. We really don't have we needed another touch of this trend line really to say, hey, for sure it's in play. It looks valid. It's fitting on this side as well until this overshoot. And plus, a lot of times when you get an overshoot, if this is the actual channel, you might pick up that major low and we might go for that measured move. Notice that we're just testing the kind of 50% level of this overnight move. So there's a lot of reasons to think, hey, a trap here might be worth taking. So even though I didn't have that one marked, I like it. And then, of course, when it hits this trend line and turns down, I like going short. That's a nice, really bearish reversal type bar. And if you caught that one, you can ride that one trade all the way down, and then notice what happens. There's a little double bottom there, so it's a breakout pullback short. But more importantly, you got a new high here, first entry, pullback second entry. So more importantly, you got a failed second entry long that fails, failed second entry long, and so then you get a nice bearish bar. And the fact that we overshot this a couple of times leads me to believe that it's probably a two-tiered channel, and so I like going short there. And again, that's another quick, really easy move. So if you just caught this one, you probably made up for the whole day. But then, of course, you bounce, and we already talked about this, why you got to be real careful. It would have worked. That's a really bearish bar, but I just think you have to wait because that's what they're going to try to do is trap people and take it up, and that's what they did. And notice it went one tick higher, just enough to trap everybody out that had gotten short here and it tried to hang on. And then look where it goes. These key entry points are critical. Even though the EMA is a key entry point, in this one you want to be looking for this trend line right here. And like I said, even though that's after 2 o'clock, if you saw it, I still like it. So yeah, not a lot of great trades today, although there were a couple of really nice ones, especially if you hung on to the afternoon. I had to leave for a little bit during late morning to lunch, so I got back really, all this was already going on, and so I really just didn't have much of a day today personally. because it just was dead, and I just used that for opportunity to take care of something else. And of course, that's what happens. Just when you give up on the market, you get a good move. So, but that's the way it goes sometimes. So maybe we'll make it up tomorrow or the next day. But anyway, not much else I can say about today, and I'm ready to get out of here. I'm going to wrap it up. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.